I don't, I don't know. I don't either. I just show up.
Good evening. I'd like to call this board meeting to order and stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please be advised in the event of a fire emergency, an alarm will sound. Please note all emergency exits and evacuate well away from the building. At this time, we request to please turn the cell phones to silent in period of operation. And I will start this meeting with swearing in our re-elected board member, Elizabeth Friedrich. Liz, please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York and the Constitution of the State of New York. And I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of board member. And I will faithfully discharge the duties of board member according to the best of my ability. Arnie was already sworn in, today for election on May 21st. And at this time, you will take nominations for a president. Do I have a nomination for president?
Nominate Elizabeth Dow.
Do I have any other nominations? Since there are no other nominations, all in favor of Elizabeth Dow as president, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? As the vote is 5-0, the motion to elect Elizabeth Bell will carry, and we will now proceed. Please stand, Liz, for the oath of office. Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of office
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of president according to the best of my ability.
of President according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Next, we are going to move on to elect our Vice President. May I have nominations for Vice President, please?
I'd like to nominate John Dixon.
Any other nominations? All in favor for John Bickford for Vice President, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? John, you are the Vice President. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Please stand. I will swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Thank you. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I support the Constitution of the United States of America
I do solemnly swear that I support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Vice President according to the best of my ability.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Vice President to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Congratulations. Next, as a matter of business, we are going to do the administration of oath for the superintendent of schools. Then we will do district clerk, starting with Dr. Chanel. Dr. Chanel, please stand. Raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of office of superintendent of schools
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of office of superintendent of schools
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will do district clerk. Ms. Booth, please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
of office tomorrow in district office by Ms. Boos. We are going to move on to additions, deletions, and changes to the agenda.
There are no additions or deletions tonight.
So we're going to move on to consent agenda. 1 and 2, minutes of June 10th, 2025, and the CSE recommendations. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. We're going to move on to communications and points of pride. I believe, Ms. Dietrich, you are going to start us off.
Thank you. Genesee Valley BOCES hosted its annual Senior Recognition Awards ceremony. 3 raters received special awards. Sarah LaPone in Building Trades got the Colazzini Award. Allison Thompson in Health Dimensions got the Batavia Kiwanis Citizenship, the highest GPA, and Emily Rickett in Health Dimensions got an award for the most credit hours.
Our annual retirement celebration was held at the Village Inn. Over 100 faculty, staff, retirees, and family members attended the gathering, and it was a lovely occasion.
4 students have completed their Project Lead the Way capstone course, the culmination of their PLTW pathway, which includes Introduction to Engineering Design, Principles of Engineering, and Digital Electronics. For this experience, raters had to rely on skills from each course and a passion for problem solving to engage in an open-ended research experience, working in teams to design and develop original solutions to real-world problems. Congratulations to Austin Chanel, Carter Hallett, Grayson Funk, and Jackson Funk.
We sent junior Emma Brogan off to New York State Track and Field Championships in style with a school-wide parade. Congratulations to Emma on an exceptional season.
On June 26th, we hosted a professional development session on the science of reading for educators who teach pre-K through 9th grade, reading and ELA. Our newest hires were invited to attend, and many were able to participate. The workshop was inspiring, and teachers left feeling energized and impassioned. Our mission, every rater is a reader. It's very catchy. Moving on to board committee reports. Has any of our board members done board committees? Anything to report off on? All right. Can you think of anything, Dr. Chanel?
No, I feel like we tied up our committees before the last meeting.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, perfect. Guests of the board, Ms. Boos, is there anybody signed up for public forum? And there's no guests of the board? Nope. So we're going to move on to superintendent's report. Dr. Chanel.
All right, so the first thing that you're going to see there are the honor roll reports that you've grown accustomed to seeing across the middle and high school. As we talked the last time, we did sort of see that uptick come back in that last marking period, encouraging kids to finish strong. This evening, as part of my report, you are going to have presentations of both the elementary school and the middle high school. We're going to start with a presentation around IXL, and Mrs. Pete is going to get us started. She'll do the first couple of slides, but then you're going to hear from probably both building principals. If not, Mrs. Pete might carry the middle high school just for a minute. Welcome Morgan to her first official board meeting. She'll be presenting data that she has been studying for the last couple of days, her first days here. Mrs. Pete.
Hi everyone. Do you want us using this?
I think Ian says we're fine without it.
Okay. Did anyone use this yet?
No.
So this is year 1 of our implementation of IXL. Actually, the middle school, high school principal was Dr. Chanel previously, and Ms. Meyer started the onboarding of this in the fall. It might have been August of 2024, and this would have been our first full year implementation. So what is IXL? It's an adaptive learning platform for education. So basically, students utilize their Chromebooks, their device. They take assessments periodically to find their good fit, and then instruction actually is adaptive and personalized to that student's needs. You can utilize it for English, science, social studies, and math. Currently at Calmon, we're really focusing on ELA and math. And teachers are able to see real-time analytics and then also get so many reports. We're still learning about all of the reports because it's just so robust. And they continue to kind of change and advance the program throughout the year. So at CalMom, how do we use IXL? We use it for the diagnostic assessment, and so Michelle will talk a little bit about that, but we also use it for instruction. So weekly, there is a target, and every day of the week, there's a little bit of a different goal, specifically for math and ELA. It monitors student growth real time. So the levels that you see today might change actually tomorrow based on the feedback from the program. So it does offer individualized practice, personalized practice for students, and it does give feedback and support along the way. Students can actually track their progress, see how they're doing when they step into the arena.
I love that she said practice because that's really what this is meant for. It's not meant for first instruction. But this is IXL's sample of what a weekly plan they recommend, and many of our teachers are doing it this way. Some have flip-flopped, I'll tell you in a moment, but they'll say on Monday they want the students to go into what we call our assessment arena, and the kids know it as the arena. It's an ongoing test. So think about this little portal that they go into, they click the button, and they're basically taking an assessment ongoing, but they don't want you to spend a lot of time on it, just some touch points, okay, like a little temperature test. Then maybe on Tuesday, the teacher will assign a skill to the students, maybe the whole class, on the standard that they are working on in ELA or math, or the teacher maybe is assigning in small group a standard that they want the kiddos to practice that are in small group for any reason. It's really skill-based and skill-driven. And then on Wednesday, because the students are in this ongoing assessment arena, it also creates a plan that's adaptable just for the student. The teacher doesn't do anything with that. This is based on the questions that they answer, get correct and incorrect, the level of difficulty changes, and the kids get their own action plan that they can work through. Then on Thursday, they might do another teacher assignment or work on some of the skills, and then they might work on their practice skill. Some of our teachers have reported they actually like the students to go into the arena towards the end of the week because then they can start planning for the following week. As opposed to starting on Monday, they feel like they have more time to look at the data and really think about what they want to assign their kids for the following week. What I love too about IXL is that they're not telling us to be, a lot of programs will say you need to spend 90 minutes, 120 minutes to make this effective. But here they're just asking for students to go on for 30 minutes, and that's 30 minutes of everything. So engage in that for 30 minutes in the week. 15 in math, 15 in ELA.
Middle school, high school uses home base, and so every home base, they spend a little bit of time, and they have a different task over math and ELA spread out throughout the week. Teachers also have explored and set up some other learning plans and common assessments as we learn a little bit more throughout the year.
Okay, so that assessment arena I was just talking about also has what I call a grown-up name, is Flex Diagnostic. So when we're looking at reports, we're looking at that assessment arena as the Flex Diagnostic. That's what it's called. And in there is, again, it's adaptable for the child. So the student is going in and they're getting a series of questions around that standard, and whether they get it right, they judge the speed, how many have they gotten right, and then they'll start creating their own set of questions to help them progress. And it is according to the grade level that the student should be at, or the student, what they're working on, right? So where it meets the student where they're at. It's very personalized and it does adapt. So having the students in this arena 10 minutes every single week makes it so that they're not sitting for an assessment every single week for 30 minutes. It's a few seconds of their time. So they go on, and then what we do to report for ourselves and to gauge where the kids are at, in the next slide, we have what we do 3 times a year is we take a picture, a snapshot of that diagnostic. So we freeze the time 3 times a year. If we, and this is something that we're getting used to, right? So we'll freeze the time in January, and by the time we all sit together and look at the data, guess what? It's different because the kids are in that assessment arena in that Flex Diagnostic all the time. but it does help us get a big umbrella view of how our kids are doing. So again, the snapshot is 3 times a year, and you'll see some of that data pull out for us in the next slide.
One of the things I like to say is think of the snapshot like when you go to the doctor and they take your blood pressure, right? It could fluctuate, but in that moment in time at the doctor is what gets recorded. The snapshot really is kind of what we see and what we look at and compare beginning, middle, and end of the year. So you have this information. It is overwhelming. Like I said, there's a ton of different reports. You're going to see the first slide is elementary math. So you will see beginning of the year, mid-year, and then end of year. And we've summarized that in another slide. The next slide actually is middle school math. So same thing, beginning of the year, mid-year, and then end of the year. Green in that pie chart is on grade level, and so you'll see this is a math end of year snapshot. So we took the end of the year, how many of our kindergartners through 8th graders by grade level were on grade level and how many were below. If you notice that it doesn't add up to 100, there are some kids that weren't pinpointed, meaning we didn't get a final score for them. So know that we're aware of that, looked at the kids. Some of it was they weren't here on that window. Some of them moved. So there's lots of reasons
Some
why.
of them also, if they're not in the arena for a period of time, it takes them much longer. So where we're taking a snapshot of that picture, they may not have been, they may have been absent, they may not have engaged in the program enough to be pinpointed. They have what they call a range score, so they'll always have something, but it's not that exact, formula that was derived from them.
So you can see again, K-8 on grade level, end of the year for math, and then below grade level. I think this is the other column I really wanted to have you kind of pay attention to and highlight. Remember, if you think back to the first slide, this is about individual student growth and personalized learning, and so every student kind of grows at their own pace. And so 100 points or 100 points a year, it would be considered on grade level in 1 year's growth. And so we had some students grew 3.5 years, so 350 kind of points of growth in one school year. This column will show you what percentage of our students grew 1 or more year in that grade level in that subject area. And then ELA, same kind of data. Right, so this is elementary ELA, beginning, mid, end. Teachers did look at this obviously throughout, administration looked at this throughout. Middle school, beginning, middle, and end of the year. And then you can see the ELA end of year snapshot. Again, same information, just on grade level, and then individual students.
So with that information and with the idea that IXL is still new to us, year 2, we're looking to learn from our teachers some more because they're the ones, they're like the boots on the ground. They actually are telling us how they're using it and which ways they're finding success with the program. So we want to offer them a 2.0 training, something a little bit more advanced than the basic. Student goal setting. So I wanted to share this story. Towards the end of the school year, I went into a 4th grade classroom. They all had their Chromebooks out, and 2 students ran up to me to show me their screens, and they wanted to show me their graph. And they said, look at how much growth I made. And that particular teacher put a lot of emphasis on looking at the chart after they're done going in that arena. Where did you end up? How'd you do? And we know that when students are goal setting, that the buy-in and the outcome is just skyrocket. So we want to encourage some more student goal setting. Refine the snapshot review process. Like I said, for us it's just a hard concept. It is for me, I'll speak for myself. Just to look at that one picture in time when every student has a story. So I think we're trying to learn what assessment IXL can give us the best picture of. There are other options in IXL. So is the Flex Diagnostic our favorite? Is it the best? Is there something that we can give at the start of the school year and at the end? So there's a lot of options for us that we want to explore. So that also leads into building common assessments. We can do that right in the program. What I love about IXL is
It aligns to our
curriculum.
current programs that we currently have.
So it has all of our resources on there, and then it comes up with questions for us to build an assessment based on the unit that we decide. And so we're looking forward to working with grade level leaders and the teams to make some common assessments right in this platform. What else?
The use of the leaderboard, so there's nothing wrong with some healthy competition. I think the middle
Especially
school-
here at Kelma, we love some
So
competition.
there are some features where you can have competition, and then I think the last part is really we want to dig in and compare the IXL data with other data points that we have, for example, the state testing, some reading level data, and so we'll be able to triangulate that and kind of give a bigger picture, a whole picture of the child versus that one data point.
No, that's a lot, and
I know.
make sure
My favorite part of the system, to be honest, is that when kids are in there working in the arena, there's a place that's basically where the kids get stuck. I can't remember what the name of the report is, but the teacher can actually see that Johnny is working on this particular skill and he's gotten 3 or 4 questions wrong in a row. No matter the prompting of the system, he can't get it right. The teacher then knows he needs to be pulled, this needs to be retaught. So just part of our conversation around what does that academic intervention time look like? What does win time look like? What does home base look like? How do we help our teachers respond to real-time data? And one of the things I would love to see maybe in August, even though maybe September we'll let Mrs. Hatch have the whole summer, but I would love for you guys to get a chance to hear from Mrs. Hatch the system that she was able to build around IXL and how quickly and how accelerated the literacy results became. So we have found some real successes inside the system if we're using it really strategically, and our next steps, as Michelle said, is going to be how do we take those successes that we had and start to normalize them across the way we deliver services and watch kids really move significantly.
I think something that's not up there too is maybe even using that leaderboard to have student motivation. When we were using the other platform, after almost a decade, the kids were picking up again. We don't want them to have that feeling anytime soon with this program. So I think a conversation that we're going to have is how do we keep our students motivated to go into the program and be excited about it.
Not to overuse
Yes,
it.
and not overusing it.
Well, that
Which
was,
is why
I think,
love that it's 15
I was
minutes.
going to say,
per
that's the
subject.
biggest selling point of this. Nothing replaces the teacher in the classroom. So to have a tool that assists versus a tool that you'd have to give up your entire literacy block in order to get the time in. We can't buy into that.
No.
Teachers matter far too much to take their instructional time.
Can I ask a quick question? When you showed the at-grade level and below grade level, those percentages seem to increase as the students get older, of the below grade level.
Great question.
How can we get them from the 75% below grade level to 75% at or above?
So I have a lot of questions in regards to that too, like what is the benchmark and the norm, and then what is causing the dip, and can we look at that and intervene? Is it something in our curriculum that is a gap that we need to look at? So I think that we have to dig in more to that, and that's our next step.
Yeah, it looks like at third grade, after third grade, they start, the below grade level starts to increase. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
I want the student goal setting. Because I think when they're aware of the impact that that program has for their learning, that making that connection is going to be huge. It's so easy for us to sit and click.
But at what age are they cognizant of
I
goal
think
setting?
they can, to your point, and
Because
then third,
8-year-olds
fourth,
don't
and
know.
fifth.
Really.
And I wonder,
can't
is there a
compare
skill,
it.
right? Is there a skill in third grade? Is it comprehension that is weighed heavier? Is it vocabulary that's weighed heavier? Is there some skill in that kind of turning point that we need to look at and make sure that we're addressing?
When we get to our board workshop that we have scheduled in August, by the time we get to that point, my goal is to have the administrators having dug pretty deeply into some of this data set and actually charting the course to the future of like, what will our goal be? What are we going to target? So that you guys get to see sort of the process we go through every year where we're looking at assessment data, we're analyzing the data, we're building action plans, and we're implementing action plans. My goal for you in August is to see what those action plans look like. And then over the course of the next school year, to be able to come back periodically and say, how are we sort of doing assessment data-wise? What are we shifting and moving in order to get our data to sort of move, to your point,
And
right?
is our inference accurate based on the data that's now coming back out to
Absolutely.
us?
So it could just be a fluid program.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Great.
What, can I ask a question? If you're finding that kids are accelerated,
Yeah.
I was really impressed with those middle schoolers
Yes. So
that
if you
you took
remember
up.
back to that presentation, so that group, that cohort of kids were definitely high flyers early on in their IXL. So how do we enrich them? Because clearly they're well above grade level. So this was one of the data points that was used in that process. So great connection.
Yeah, because I thought, and even like, what about like kids down lower in, kindergarten or first grade or something, they're coming in reading already. What does the teacher then do with those kids? Or what does the program do?
So similar to what you would think for intervention of a student that's struggling, they do the same thing, but intervention for a student that is excelling. So we would expect that they're pulling small group, that they're meeting with the students, they're reading text at a higher reading level, and exposing them to different comprehension tasks. So for sure that small group instruction is how our elementary teachers set up their ELA block of time and math.
Okay,
A lot of small groups.
so they are doing it. So,
And just on that same vein, with this program, does it make it easier to make sure that those kids are still growing? Because if they're coming in above grade level, they're going to be above grade level at the end of the year, but are we able to easily track how they're growing to make sure they're keeping
Yep.
that?
We get every student, actually, it's pretty awesome. Every student, there's a graph, right? And it's a graph by skill in each strand, right? So ELA and math. So you could get a report theoretically for your child and look at that report and kind of see their growth over time.
And it would throw harder stuff at kids who are
Yes.
excelling.
Yes, so as you kind of max out, they give you more challenging questions. So we have, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know we had a fourth grader at an 800, like 8th grade level, so they're seeing in the arena, right, 8th grade material
And
constantly.
then what
Okay,
happens,
so
say, a fourth grader ages out content-wise, what happens if they finish 8th grade stuff?
So that's a great question. This program continues to push.
Okay, so it can provide,
Yeah.
okay, and then we implement K-8?
K-8.
okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Great.
Thank you.
All right, next up, it's you. We will all support Morgan. Through her.
Her first board meeting, welcome. We're excited to have you.
Recap the year for us.
Yeah, 1 week ago today was day one. And then we had a holiday, so we're good. I've spent the last few days looking at a lot of Regions data. It's been really great to jump on board and see how well our students perform. I think overall, things are looking good. We have some areas that we want to focus on, but overall, it's been really nice and refreshing to sit down and see the good things that our kids are doing. So the data that you have in front of you, I gave you a new packet because the initial data I gave you, I had different data coming at me and I had to kind of work through what it meant and what was going on. So there were some hiccups in the first data I sent to you that they've been fixed now. So this is the most accurate that you're going to get. So the categories that you're looking at, you'll see the exam name, the number of students who took it, who passed it, who failed it, the passing rate percentage. So this includes 65% or higher or 55% or higher for students with disabilities who qualify for the low pass option, and then the mastery pass percentage pass rate as well. And just kind of an explanation, I guess, of kind of why the data got tricky for me. The June and the January initially included every student that took the exam, and then overall for the year, it eliminates if they took both exams, and it just takes one exam per student, so whatever they scored the highest on. So the numbers are a little bit different between the individual months and then the overall data. So that was kind of what I learned was the reason for my discrepancies. So it's there, and it's in front of you. Obviously, I don't need to go through everything. I've kind of highlighted in green the areas that are like, ooh, big celebrations. We want to continue on that trend. So obviously, looking at passing rates that are in the 90%, that's just awesome. Anything over 85, and then looking at mastery rates too. Not so much in this particular set, but when we get into June and even into the overall, we're in the 40s in the mastery rate in some tests, which is again another reason to celebrate. So there's January, June, same idea. The Algebra 1 was the one that got me in the initial data that I sent out, because in the data I was reading, it was labeled Algebra 1 and then it was labeled the 8th graders or the Algebra 1 advanced students, and I didn't take both of those into account. So that's why I have a little messy. But we did have 3 students that did achieve mastery on the Algebra 1 exam exam, and all of those are our 8th grade advanced students. So that, that speaks to how well our 8th graders are performing in that advanced level. Yes, we have area for growth there, but it was nice to see that as well. So again, there's June, and then when you get into the overall, again there we are seeing solid numbers of passing rate over that 85 mark, and many in the 40s in mastery rate. So those are all the things that we want to, they're working, and we want to continue, heading in that direction. So just a quick, again, this has been a very quick look for me. Obviously, as Dr. Chanel said, we're going to look more in depth and come up with a new plan. Highlights, as mentioned, all those exams fall within that passing percentage above 85, which is great, and these exams get into the 40s of mastery. And then areas that we want to focus on as we move forward. We do look at what we call the graduation exams, kind of above others, because those are typically the ones that students need to pass in order to get graduation credit. So there are some failures there that we've already started. Ms. Pete and I and Dr. Chanel have already started the conversation about those particular students and kind of what our plan is for them. Some of them in those numbers did receive the low pass, so they are safe, but they do come up as still having not passed the exam, even though they have the graduation credit, so that's good. So we already kind of have a plan in place for those students. We want to look at those scores that are under that 85% pass rate and get those up, and then look at improving those mastery rates as well, if we want students to achieve high scores. So that's kind of where we're at the very start of the gate, and we're gonna keep moving forward. So any questions for me? Anything I can clarify to the best of my ability right now?
You're splendid.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good. Thank you.
Is discipline data for the high school next?
Yeah.
Middle high school? You guys, Mr. McCardle's here tonight. He's gonna
Rare appearance.
rare appearance.
Good to be here. So I shared with Morgan our student management data. You have it in front of you. It's a black and white report as far as things that are happening each month. And I think you'll see, if you looked at it closely, you'll see some peaks and valleys of student performances throughout the year, and some areas that we're going to be looking at based on the data that came through this year to make some focuses into next year. We really did a lot this year, kind of shifted and for a couple of reasons with some of our actions, as far as we had 100 detentions this year, after school detentions, for the whole school year. And if you're a follower of that number over the last few years, it's gone up for a couple of reasons. We moved away from our home-based detention time for a couple of reasons. One, we don't have a lot of staffing. Staffing is really tough in that spot with our lack of subs. And we also felt that the after-school time is obviously more inconvenience for students and hits a little different. And the population of students that were in this a lot, it seemed to work. So we kind of shifted a little bit with that. So there's some reasons of why that number would have went up a little bit from previous years. The other thing I think is important to know that we'll be tracking in here next year will be a new category of cell phone situation. So we're working through that and coming up with some proactive approaches on how we're going to handle that in a way that is going to be positive but yet firm and follow the procedures that we're putting in place. I think I'm really proud of our teachers this year. Did an outstanding job in really teaming up with our office. We had multiple principals throughout the year, and I think that we worked hard to maintain a great working relationship with these students that that really struggled. And I felt that the teachers really did above and beyond in coming up with different approaches to support students in need. And I just want to give them a ton of credit for the work that they've done in helping in the student management area as well, being a good partner with myself and with the principals that we had in place this year. At times it was not an easy situation, and I felt that our staff did a really good job, and want to commend them for their continued commitment to students that struggle. Any questions?
I could have just sat down.
It's good to be not alone.
I'm here for you.
Do you have, at the beginning of the school year, I just don't even remember if you do things like this. Do you have like an assembly or something when you talk about the code of conduct and talk about how you don't do all these things that,
Yes, yeah. This year we kind of shifted a little bit in that area, and we did a grade level assembly. So I led every grade, met with myself during our home base time, and went through a lot of things that point of emphasis that we were looking at from the previous year, some goal setting of what we wanted to see. Everything from how you would leave your lunch table area to how we want students to conduct themselves in the bathroom, to all the little things that come across a daily life of a student. And I felt that those 7 meetings were very productive, and I felt students really took on a lot of information, and I think that it's something that we're definitely going to do again. And it is playing offense, but obviously as the year goes on, things change, different things happen, but it's something that we're definitely going to continue.
because you look at the code of conduct and you're like, oh, this is a lot of words,
Yeah.
and I was just wondering if, you really,
Yeah, it's,
you want to come out and say, behave yourself.
Yeah, well, the PowerPoint that we used that put together had, images of like positive things, like spaces, when they look clean. I showed one image of our cafeteria worker, cleaning the tables, and showed them, this is what it looks like when you're not there, and the efforts that's happening to prepare this space as you come in. So kind of taking that type of approach for them to really understand the behind the scenes of what's happening at the school to create a positive environment for themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, elementary school, you're up. Got both APs out here tonight.
Autographs after. I'm Pete Green, I'm your just some things that I've been hearing in these past couple of presentations here that I want to make sure come alive. I love what Dr. Chanel said there. How do we help students and teachers respond to the real-time data? I think that's really why we assess, is to gain information and then look to see what the story behind the data tells, right? So that's the big piece, is looking at the trends and things like that. So first and foremost, before we present this data, when's the last time that behavior or discipline data was ever presented in the elementary school? So this is going to be fairly new to us, and we've kind of changed the way that we actually take in that data too. So we're learning on the fly as to what we want to make come alive and how we then make changes to instruction, to interventions, the same as academic and behavior. So just want to make that come alive. And I think you already have a copy of this, and you saw our notes, which is keep this slide positive and quick as a refresher for the board. So we're going to try to do that. The Raider 5 was modeled after the high school's Champions 5. And so we felt that there was a void and we needed some common language across our school. And so this is our response to a need for a positive behavior intervention system. This began with some brainstorming sessions between ourselves, and then we brought it to the teachers. They gave us some feedback, and then all of the words, the compact committee, student council, they helped us come up with these 5, we celebrated those all year long. You might have noticed some of your children come home with these bracelets. You may have seen pictures, wonderful pictures that were at our celebration that we did 2 times this year, and so we really wanted to focus on the positive. We also, your question, Peg, was, how are we teaching these things? And that's exactly right, we're teaching them because kindergartens come into us not knowing how to behave in places where there's maybe a little less supervision. The cafeteria, the bus, the bathrooms, things like that. And so we're constantly teaching and reiterating from September until June what it is that those students need intervention with.
So what you'll see is in the next slide, we actually, when he came on board end of October of our previous year, we started to talk about like what was the data we wanted to collect. So we always have the behavior data, it's just never as maybe cut and dry as some of the middle high school data, right? Because we're doing a lot of this like this teaching of this is how we behave in school. And again, it may be a student's first experience of what that looks like. So we really sat down and wanted to talk about what were incidents, what do we mean by that? So you'll see that in the 23-24 school year, we had 93 documented incidents that we addressed. We didn't start that in September. Not that we didn't have anything to address, we just didn't collect the data in that way. So it's pretty comparable to this year. So if we're starting to see, we can start thinking about trends after maybe next year would be nice. So we had 116 incidents that we addressed from the administrative office. The teachers are addressing way more than that, way more on a daily basis, right? So this is really information based on when do the principals address a situation. Okay, the teachers are constantly monitoring and adjusting and creating their classroom culture and what does it look like, and giving out consequences, and maybe you've missed recess or coming up with positive behavior plans. They're doing that on a daily basis. This is really when did Mr. Green and I have to step in. Do you want to talk about this one? This one's a fun one.
Well, yeah, again, in your notes, you can look a little bit closer at this, but this is like the what incident, and the where it occurred, and so this just gives us some information as to then what's going to be a priority and where are we going to focus moving into next year. So kindergarten and first graders, they're struggling on the bus. There's some inappropriate language, inappropriate actions. Again, we tried ourselves to code this in a way that's relevant to our school. In our own notes, we can go back, and if we want more information, we can take a look at that. But again, what's relevant to the elementary as opposed to the middle high school. There's some, again, if you go back in, there's a student that thought it was fun to tie a seatbelt together on the bus. That's not okay because that's not safe, one of our rated 5. And so that's how we would approach that with a conversation in the office. Hey, when we're doing that's not safe, right? So
if you're using inappropriate language, are you being respectful of the people around you? Are you being accepting of others in your space? And so those are the conversations that we're having, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We also, when we're looking at the location, so one of the things that we wanted when we were having this conversation is like, what do we care about? And we cared about where these incidences were happening. Of course, like I said, things are happening in the classroom that a teacher is taking care of on a daily, but where is it that we needed to step in? And you'll see that we do have a bus referral system for the whole year, 2 bus runs, okay? 180 days, let's say, times 2, we had 35 bus referrals. Many of them are from our younger students learning how to get on the bus. Many of them are also when the bus is idle. So it's working with our transportation department and giving some training on what does this look like for a student. What I know that you have to keep your eyes on the road. That is actually what we need you to do. We don't want you to worry about this. So what we did this year that was a little different was we do 2 bus safety drills a year. And on the very first one, 2 or 3? 2.
Looking at me, it might be 3.
So the first one, we did a presentation where we brought each of the grade levels in before they went on the bus, and then Mr. Green and I went over the expectations of the bus. Like, this is what we expect. So we wanted the kids to hear it from us, not just their teacher, but to know that, again, the Raider 5 on the road exists, and what does that mean? And then they went on the bus and got their bus safety. So that was just one piece that we tried to do.
Before you move past that, you mentioned the idle time. Will you just talk about the intervention? What did you do differently this year with idle time?
Yes, so in the past, in both the morning and in the afternoon, the students were transitioning. Well, we found that the kids can get on the bus very quickly. and get off the bus very quickly, that we didn't need all this time in between to get ourselves over to the middle school for middle high school pickup. So on the front end, in arrival, as soon as the buses come, we do have the cafeteria staffed for supervision, that we've allowed the students to get off the bus right away so that they don't, and come into the cafeteria and almost start their breakfast. So that they're not waiting on the bus until 7:30 until the bell rings. We were seeing that some of the buses were coming at 7:21, 7:17 sometimes, and that's a long time for our kids to be on the bus. So we staffed the cafeteria so that we can get the kids in a spot where they're supervised. And then the same for the afternoon. We pushed our dismissal time as opposed to getting the kids started and packed up almost 20 minutes ahead of time. We've narrowed that down to 10 minutes. So we really did cut the idle time by 10 minutes on each side, which has helped, I think,
I would
tremendously.
say even less. We even brought it down to, I mean, now we have it down to the students, if the buses are there, the bell rings at 2:50, and we have those buses coming over to the middle school by 2:56,
Yeah.
leaving our bus loop. So that's helped a lot. By the time the bell rings here, the buses are set, ready to go, they're not waiting, kids exit, and they're on the road.
It took us about 1 week at the start of the school year to get that
It was done really well.
done. So, yeah, it was definitely an area of success.
Monitor and adjust.
Monitor and adjust, that's right. And also our presence on the bus, like we tried the best that we can to get on the bus, Pete and I, and just either do a bus run, go and show our presence once in a while, because the fact is, when there is another adult on the bus, of course, we know that that's a strategy. Proximity, rode up on the bus. The strategy of having older kids support the younger kid doesn't always help. It actually creates a little bit more bickering than needed. So some strategies have worked, some have not, and we're just trying some other things.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the next slide is incidents by grade level. So we wanted to break it down to see if we saw anything. That was just our curiosity. You'll see that the kids that are entering kindergarten, this does not mean that it's 23 separate students. They could also be a couple students that needed some additional support during the school year, okay? So kindergarten, you'll see we're at 23, and then we dip off in grades 1 and 2, and then you see a little bit of a rise again in grade 3. And one of the things that Pete and I talked about is that's actually when peer conflict starts. When you start to stop loving everybody. Everybody's not your best friend at that point when we're talking kid language. So they start to have these types of conversations and conflicts and become their own people. And so we're really raising kids together. And, you know, there's natural consequences to some of the decisions that kids make. And so we just work through that with them. You'll see that on the next slide. Is there anything you want to add to that one? Okay, go ahead. You go there.
You'll see some of our interventions here and how we respond. Hopefully, the direction that we're heading in, we're going to be a little bit more proactive, but these have been our responses to some of these behaviors this year. So, principal conversation, first and foremost, anytime that someone comes through our office, we're counseling them one-on-one, and then immediately after we counsel them or before, we give a phone call home. So there's 116 incidents, we give 116 phone calls home directly. Parents really appreciate that when we pick up the phone and call. Something that's noted, it's just there's nothing lost in translation there. So the lunch detention that's also used is, let's call it that tier 2 intervention. So if the student needs a little bit something extra, they're not quite understanding our expectations, we're going to spend a little bit of time with me for lunch today. Okay, and again, that's followed up with a phone call home.
And it does seem to be like good currency for our students, especially at this age level. They're missing out with their peers. It's interesting to see how our office shifts during that time because they're sitting directly with us. We don't have somebody else that is going to do lunch detention. They're with us, and sorry, kiddo, right? I've got work to do. It's silent. I actually turn my music off, and we're just going to sit here, and you're going to enjoy your lunch. And think about the consequence. Sometimes you might need to write a letter. Sometimes you need to write your thoughts down. And sometimes we're calling the parent right in the moment, too, together. They're able to do that.
So that's a good point. I mean, lots of times, yes, we do sit in silence, but also that's our turn to kind of restore and repair and learn from the behaviors. So, yeah, many of my lunches are spent with students there.
12 ISS, steps into OSS. You know, when we're talking about in-school suspension, again, it's knowing what the student's currency is, right? The student may be really having a challenging time, and someone might say, get them out of school. Well, once we, again, know the story a little bit more, in-school suspension is what we find at the elementary level a little more effective. And in school, getting them their instruction, having somebody sit with them and thinking about their actions for the entire day. This also gives us contact time with the student where we can bring a counselor down to talk to them. We can go in and visit again a few times throughout the day. Many times we're doing the ISS. So when we have those 12, I think maybe 2 or 3 of those times we had a substitute that was able to come in, but other than that, it's typically Peter. Okay, and the last little slide here. Want to do this one?
Finally, this is moving forward. This is something, again, that we just created this year in response to everything that we have experienced. So this is something we're going to roll out with teachers, just so that, you know, there's clear expectations. There's clarity around what our expectations are, around what teachers are expected of us and from us. And so you'll just see it's a tiered system. So level 1, level 2, those are classroom behaviors that are managed by the classroom teacher. So level 1, those are reminders. A classroom teacher, you know, may give a message home on parents' Twitter, may give even a phone call home. Level 2, it's you know, a repeated behavior, so maybe something's taken away, maybe a recess or something like that. Level 3, now comes we're a part of the show, right? And so instead of the teacher calling home, it's going to be us. You know, the offenses are a little bit greater, and then level 4, those are severe behaviors like suspensions and things like that. So it's, again, how can we help support you? If students need a break from classroom time, we are there to support them, but that's a level 3. And
teachers were asking for this. They were like, we just don't want to bother you. Like, when should we call the office? You can call really any time, but we also don't want to take that ownership away from the relationship between the student and the teacher, of course. So you'll see us in the hallway if we see behavior that we don't really appreciate, or that's not the expected behavior, it's not following the Raider 5, then we'll address it in the moment. We've just found that our wheelie carts being out in the hallway as best as possible has truly minimized some of the things. And then also not having kids needing to be sent down to that principal's office, right? It's a good balance between a really wonderful place to be and then sometimes a place where we need to sit and reflect.
the last point is we only know what we know. So we are constantly encouraging classroom teachers and the bus drivers alike to let us know. And so maybe you might see an increase in referrals. That's because we want to know and to help intervene. Okay, so I feel that's a good point, and teachers know that we're there to support them as well as the bus drivers. So.
And we have really wonderful children here. So that's another thing. Many of our phone calls with parents and with kids are of that nature. They're restorative and they understand everybody's in the same boat. And again, we're trying to just instill really great values for all of our kids.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I just have a quick question. So since you have adopted the Raider 5, has that really helped when you talk to the children to help them be able to relate to why their behavior isn't acceptable at school and prevent future incidents with that? Is that?
Yeah, I love also the homeschool connection we sent home. I think we did it twice last year. Just how this language can translate everywhere we are. So yes, and I think our teachers appreciate it, not just the classroom teachers, but special area teachers that see all of our kids throughout the day. It has helped really have this conversation. And then it also helps us celebrate the students really specifically. Wow, you were safe because, and so we did the shout outs that teachers we asked, because kids want to shout out each other all the time. We would have hundreds. Our announcements would go on for way too long. But teachers were then shouting out in positive ways students' behavior, and then we were reading them out in the announcements. And boy, was that it was awesome. They were.
And again, it's like monitoring and adjusting too. So, at this early stage, there's not a ton of trend data, but let's call it our formative assessment data. We've got a lot of really great feedback. but like how real is that, right? And so we're constantly like trying to find out what works, and like just like if you teach a lesson once, you might look back if you teach it a second time and do it a little bit differently. So I think that's what ourselves and teachers are wondering, is like what can we change, what can we tweak a little bit? Next year we're going to explicitly teach these behaviors a little bit more, you know? So I think it's just always an ongoing learning process.
And how do we keep them hyped up, right? One of our conversations this summer is like, is it bracelets this year? I don't know. Did we already lose that? But, you know, we have to keep up with what the kids are gonna stay engaged with, so we'll be working on that.
Other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone? That was all the presentations, right? Excellent. Thank you for doing the superintendent's report.
July.
All right, we're going to move on to some reorganizational appointments. Number 1, officer appointments. Resolved that the Board of Education appoint the following officers as listed, A through II, for 1 year effective immediately. Can I have a motion, please?
Yes.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Moving on to number 2, designations. Resolved that the Board of Education make the designations as listed, A through H, as listed for 1 year effective immediately. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please make note of the meeting dates. That's the only new thing on there. I think everything else is pretty standard. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Bonding of school district employees. Pursuant to law and commissioners' regulations, the board will bond the following personnel handling district funds: business administrator and payroll clerk. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion's carried. Authorizations. Resolved that the Board of Education endorse the authorizations listed for 1 year effective immediately, A through N. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Approval of cooperative bidding. Resolved that the Board of Education appoint Brendan Colwell as business administrator to participate in cooperative bidding for the 2025-2026 year, effective July 1, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next, we're going to move on to board committees. As you can see in your backup notes, we have our 2024-2025 board representatives for committees. We need to reassign for the 2025-2026 school year. So I'd like to start that discussion. Ideally, we want 2 and no more than 3 on a committee. However, we have learned some new, for the audit committee, board audit committee, we need 3. So we just need to keep those into consideration. You also have the committee chart that's been given to us. And I know Becca has a question about a specific committee that she'd like to ask, which may be pertinent to do before we move on. So Becca,
Okay.
please.
So this year, during negotiations, we discovered as the subcommittee that it is not typical for board members to be on negotiation committees. The unions often see that as a little bit of an affront, and it puts them on guard, as well as anyone who is on the negotiations committee is then saying that whatever the negotiations committee agrees to with the unions, they are supporting. They cannot vote against at the board committee. So being on the negotiations committee, you're committing yourself to an affirmative vote at the board meeting. So you're losing your individual vote on that by being on the committee. And it was just discussed that it is not standard practice in New York State to have board members on negotiations committees anymore. So I just wanted to bring that up so that we could have a discussion as to whether or not we wanted to continue having board members on the negotiation committees, or if we wanted to step back and say that that's a committee we wanted to take off of our list.
That's all fine quickly, but when did New York State come up with the idea that it was no longer a good idea to have board members on the negotiating committee?
So I don't know that New York State is weighing in on it. I think some legal counsel has weighed in, and there are districts within New York State that have board members on negotiations committees. So I just want to be clear about that. It is not the norm, is what I heard. Dr. Chanel, did you hear something different?
Yeah, I
in
would
that
say,
discussion?
just in general, this year, our legal counsel actually negotiated on our behalf. So Sarah was present at every negotiation. So as we were in preparation for that, she let me know that we should at least examine what that means for board members and make sure that every board member knows. She's discouraged it. We really should be careful with 3 board members on any committee, and that's just your open meetings law. So once we get to a point where there's 3 board members and they're in a role where decisions are now going to be in some way solidified, that particular meeting has to abide by open meetings law. You have to make it open to the public and give notice that it's occurring. So we have to be just a little bit conscious of that. So Sarah drew our attention to that. And then I do believe you reached out to NYSBA because I encouraged that. Like we should check with NYSBA. And I think you were told the same thing. It happens in some places.
Some districts do it, and it's been their practice. NYSBA sort of discourages against it, but isn't going to take a formal role in terms of yes or no. But it's not as common. But that was interesting for me to learn. I just thought it was the norm, and to hear that it wasn't the norm was interesting. So I think it's something we have to discuss.
Has it been a norm here for a long period?
As far as I
So,
remember.
so,
Forever.
so no parties involved should be surprised in a sense that BOE members are on the committee, right?
Correct.
That the union reps are well aware that, hey, this is how we have done it. Don't be surprised to see us there.
I think Becca and I were feeling, and Mike was there as well, but he's not here to discuss it tonight. We were feeling like we couldn't make that decision in a silo as a subcommittee, so that's why it's being brought up here.
Oh, good. Curiosity only, I was just curious if,
But we did drop from 3 to 2.
what hand New York State played in it, apparently not at the moment, so.
They're not saying you can't.
It's fine.
It's not a hard and fast from New York State. It's just sort of, we ratify that contract as a board, and so that could put us in an awkward situation as members of the committee.
Gotcha.
So with that information, how are people feeling here at the table that this is new information for?
What role does the board member play?
Great question.
I've never been.
So on the most current committee, the board members really were back seats. We let Dr. Chanel and our legal counsel take charge. We were able to review the paperwork that they had drawn up, and if there was anything outrageous to us, we were able to ask questions and clarifications, but that was pretty much our role, was just kind of getting information and asking questions about it. We didn't do any direct negotiations. That was not our role. Our role is just kind of observers and to give our input as to what's going on.
Great idea.
And I guess one thing, since we end up ratifying it as a group anyway, what is, in a sense, the harm of having just another set or two of eyes in there just to, because it's not going to be, it's not developed in isolation, and we ratify it anyhow as a board, so is there a discrepancy between being there or not being there? Is there harm being there since we're going to, in the end approve it, versus is there benefit to not being there?
I guess the benefit to not being there is it would just be a personal one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were on the negotiations committee and the teams came to an agreement and you personally did not agree.
Right.
Sitting at the board table, you lost your voice to say no.
So, no, I don't, that wasn't.
Because you, as a member of that negotiations committee, said yes when the whole committee said yes. So that's the one.
Negotiating in good faith, basically.
Right.
And then so Sarah was just advising, right? So the board can still decide to do whatever you want. I think the conversation here was just, we learned that from our legal counsel in the middle of negotiations. We did change from 3 members of the negotiating committee down to 2. And I do think we should be cognizant of every committee moving to 2, except for the board audit committee, which by law must be at 3 and must be governed by open meeting law. So what I would say to you is the rules around this are as clear as mud, but it sounded to me in all of the reading that I did and my conversations with legal counsel, not that having 2 makes us safe, but it makes us safer. Having 3, you're starting to get close to enough members of the board are here making a decision that could basically declare the vote once you get back to do board business. So having 3 means you could be considered conducting business. 2, not really. Mixed company, fantastic. So I would say all the rest of them where you see 3, we really should pair back to 2. Maybe the third becomes an alternate, so
Yeah,
that if you
sometimes
can't make it.
Sometimes we have a third specifically for that reason, for an alternate, because whoever sits on it, this happens a lot for the board president ones, if they need a second, someone else to help out. But yeah, it should strictly be an alternate if there is a 3, except for audit, which we need 3.
Yep, we need a third.
You know, I'm inclined to just keep it as it is and how we've been doing things. I think the board members that were on the committee really were observers. Dr. Chanel, Becca, you were there, and really helped the board. I think when we came back into executive session and summarized what was happening, they were able to weigh in, and that was nice for us. I thought, so I'm inclined to keep it as is. Is anyone else opposed or feels strongly one way or the other?
I'm okay keeping on, but I think, as Dr. Chanel said, we need to make sure there's only 2 and
Or 1.
or 1.
It doesn't have to be 2. It can be 1 board member.
Just so somebody says.
Why-
It can be 1 and an alternate if we had.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Why don't people, or why don't other districts, why don't most districts have those, I wonder? Why wouldn't they have board members on the negotiating committee? That's what I'm trying to,
Some districts don't
Frame
send
that.
their superintendent in. Like every school does it slightly differently. I think what we heard from Sarah, I think Becca is describing it fairly well, which is if you're going to do that, you have to understand that you're now negotiating in good faith.
yeah.
So if you're at the table, you're negotiating in good faith.
Yeah.
If you're not at the table and you decide to ratify, or you decide you don't think we should ratify the contract, you weren't in good faith if you were part of the team. So I think it's more the learning piece of that, and making sure we understand what you're committing to if you're on that committee per legal counsel advice.
The only thing, Liz, is I wonder if a board member could be intimidating or not.
So interesting you brought that up, Arnie, because I felt that way.
Yeah.
I think it can be intimidating to have a board member at the table, and I don't know if advocate is the right word, but I suggested maybe we don't have someone there. I was comfortable with that. I have trust in our business officials and our superintendent and our lawyers to do that job and to bring us a contract that is in the best interest. We set parameters around what they're allowed to do or where we're comfortable. So the guardrails that Dr. Chanel talked about early on in that process. So that was something that I thought but it's not for me to decide. That would need I would only feel comfortable doing that if the majority of the board felt that way, and I felt a little isolated in that thinking.
Yeah.
I obviously haven't been on this committee, so who all does represent the people who aren't teachers? I mean, you just mentioned a couple people. So who's in that room? Who's in the room negotiating?
it's our legal counsel.
This time it was legal counsel. That's not always been the case. It probably won't be the case as I get my land legs. I would not
So-
use legal counsel to negotiate,
The
but
superintendent generally has led that, but since it was Dr. Chanel's first go-around and her first month,
Yeah.
I thought I should have help.
Oh, no, but
So,
it's
yeah.
just
Typically,
like
yeah,
one person, it's
Yes.
Superintendent, business official typically do the only talking on our side. And then typically on the union side, it's going to be either a union representative,
Right.
somebody from NYSET, and the union president. They may have the same thing. They may have a couple of committee members that don't speak at all. The difference for board members when you're seated there was this piece that Sarah shared with us around that. Which,
Right, so
Yeah.
it's really, see, I had the impression that it was a lot of people in the room. So it's really 4 or 5 people, and that's really about it.
yeah, sometimes, I mean,
talking.
from an administrative standpoint, sometimes we sent in just our president to negotiate our contract with Superintendent Malsani. Sometimes it was just 2 of them, nobody else in the room. You know, depending on how many people come on one side, I think it does posture how many people come on the other side.
For content, or context, we do have support staff this year
We have support staff and administrators.
and administrators. So there's 2 negotiations that are gonna be coming up in this next go-round. So it's not something, it's a conversation we need to have that we're having, and not something we can discuss later. I suppose we could put someone on the committee and say later, we don't feel we need to be there, but this is what we're doing.
I'm not opposed to having someone. I do think you should consider not 3. Just, that's going to be my advice down every committee other than that board audit committee based on my learning. That's my only advice.
Well, I can see that a board member could be intimidating. If you felt that way.
Yeah, before we started, Becky, you were there. I think we had good guidance about our role and our expectations as board members at the table, and I think that's really important. Like, what is your role? Because a lot of times on committees, we are more active and vocal, and on this committee, you're not. You
Right.
literally are just sitting,
Just a witness.
observing.
Yeah.
And you really have to keep, it's important to keep a poker face, for lack of a better term.
Everybody try it now. They're all looking at us.
That's why I didn't go.
So 0, 1, or 2?
No more than 2, yes.
I'm okay having someone. I feel like if we have one and an alternate, that would be suffice. That would be sufficient for what we need, especially because the role is just an observer, just to kind of have eyes on what's going on.
Yeah.
That,
I'm comfortable with that. Is everybody else?
Yeah, I think
Alright.
that's
Yep.
probably
Before
a
we
good
go
solution.
down the list, so that was the one sort of thing we had to discuss. The other committees sort of stay the same and they're what they are. So we'll plan on having 1 person on negotiations and 1 alternate. Mike unfortunately could not be here tonight, but did say he would like to stay on athletic, policy, and negotiations. So as we go through, let's take that into consideration. But let's start with the elementary compact committee. Last year we had, I have so many pieces of paper in front of me. Dr. Chanel, yes, would you please pull that?
Yes, last year on elementary compact was Mike Belenik, Liz Dahl, and Peggy Roll.
Okay, so we need 2
Yeah.
people.
I'm happy to be on it, knowing that I have my conflict. But if I can come for the first half an hour.
Let's keep it at the first half. PTO has their time. so-
Quilting is really important,
All right,
you
so
know
it
that.
is. Peggy, for elementary compact, and 1 more, please.
Mike, though,
Mike?
you already said Mike wants to stand up.
No, he said
Well,
athletic
you don't
policy
do
and
this.
negotiations.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just thought he had. All right, sorry.
I'm gonna try to stay, there's so many that I have to do, is board president, I'll do it, but I'm gonna shoot.
If you need somebody, I can do it, but I have enough other ones that might be a challenge.
All right, let's date.
Making a list.
could be either one.
There's your list.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Middle high school compact, please. Last year was Becca and Liz Dietrich.
I would like to
I
stay on.
stay on that too, please.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Even with the new principal?
Thank
Yes,
you.
with the new
Thank-
principal.
Thank you, thank you.
As we're going through these, I also was looking at, just let's have a fair representation of board members across. There was, a lot of us were signed up for a lot of them, so I just want to make sure everybody's getting a chance to do what they want. And to represent is your board role. Technology committee, last year was Mike and Liz.
I'm happy to do it again.
Anyone else?
Only if you want a technically non-challenged person.
We talked about this a little bit when we were revising the board's operational handbook. Some of these committees you guys are doing are not board work. So that, maybe not today, but like at some point, this is very challenging and there are some committees that require a little bit more from you that I think we struggle sometimes to find good times to meet. So maybe when we get to some of these, if no one wants it, maybe we consider the fact that the board could then say, instead of being on the technology committee, we want the director of technology to report out on committee work twice a year and not feel like you'll be present.
I think that that's a good discussion to have. I don't want to have it tonight. I think that's summer work. I think we should talk about that. For
Yep.
tonight, I think we should assign committee people. And then this summer, we really need to talk about this in August. Like, where is it essential that we're putting our time and efforts? Because I think we've all felt it this past year, the time commitment that we've had here. So for now, I think Liz is fine as one. I don't think we have to have two. We just have to have one. And then we can reassess in August. The Genesee Valley School Board, is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
I move quick, so I apologize. I'm not trying to steamroll
That's all right.
everything, I go. Genesee Valley School Board's rep and alt, that will be John and I. Legislative liaison. Yep.
They can take your place.
That would be fantastic. You've done that in the past. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Arnie and John.
Yep.
John, are you okay with that?
Yes.
You volunteering you for those?
Yes.
Negotiations. So I think we've decided we want one person, or no, what have we decided?
One person with one alternate.
One and an alternate. Last year it was Becca and Mike. This is one that Mike has asked to be on. Everyone okay with that?
I can stay as alternate.
Okay. Board audit, we're gonna need 3. Board audit was Mike and John. John, would you mind staying on that?
No, I plan on it.
Any other takers? We need 3. Mike's not here, I think he likes that one. I will join. So myself, Mike, and John.
I mean, for the amount of time it actually takes, it's,
How often does it meet? Once, twice a year?
yes.
You okay with that? Liz, you want on?
I don't want on.
I was gonna confuse it as you want
Careful what I
on.
say. No,
I know, it's
I'm good.
Right? Christine for Facilities committee, we have, Liz and myself are on that.
Unless somebody wants to rip it out of our hands, they can have it.
Well,
This
she
year-
framed that very differently.
This year, I think we are up for our 5-year.
We are, it's due before the end of the year.
Yeah, so I think that's fine if we stay on it. There will be some work to start. Unless someone else is interested.
What all the,
It was like, please don't say anything.
I'm glad I'm here, let's put it there.
Board policy committee, we had
Me.
Mike, Liz, and Peggy.
Yeah.
Let's keep this to 2.
I'm happy to
I-
stay on.
or, okay, you want to
I
do?
was on it. I could be on it.
Okay, Arnie?
And Mike wanted on that, right? So take me off.
Who else wanted on?
Well, so I could do that. I mean, is that where the board policy, is that when they're talking about cell phones? And stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, I could work on that. But did Mike
Mike
want to be on
wanted that
that?
one.
If Mike wants to be on it, that's
If
fine.
you want a policy, athletics, and negotiations.
Okay, so we're gonna do Arnie and Mike.
That's fine.
Shared Services Committee, that was Becca and I. I would like to stay on that.
I would too.
Athletic Code Committee,
That's not good.
Mike and Becca.
I want to stay on that one too.
And Mike wants on it.
There should be something here. What else?
Perfect.
Textbooks. I'm good at
If
that.
you have, please speak up if you have a desire for any of these committees, and I'm going too fast.
Nope.
Genesee Valley Board President Rep, that's me. Financial Planning, that had been Mike. No takers,
And
it's,
what's that involve? Do you have to, do you have to do it?
So financial planning, here you go.
Financial. Oh, okay, I didn't see that. And that's an as-needed thing.
I can keep Mike on it.
I don't think I'm best suited for
That he wants,
that.
and I think his time is limited.
But I will be,
To be able to put in a fair, to give it a fair.
Peggy, do you want it?
I want to be on the textbook committee.
All right, so I still need someone for financial.
What does that entail?
It's as needed. It's in,
Do you want me to read it?
yes, please. Thank you.
Serving on the Financial Planning Committee involves developing and overseeing strategy for the district's financial management and long-term financial stability. Committee members analyze budget proposals, forecast financial trends, and assess funding needs to align resources with educational priorities.
How often does it meet?
As needed. How often has it
How often is
historically?
that on
Did it-
average?
It has not met since February 1st.
Okay, it says Brennan is in charge, but he doesn't know how frequently it was met, because.
I'll put myself on it, and something we can reassess.
Okay.
Is that,
I got it.
okay?
Textbook committee.
Yes, I will be happy to.
Okay. Anyone else?
I can stay on it.
Okay. All right, do you want, Dr. Chanel, would you mind reviewing those?
Okay, from the top. Elementary school compact is going to be Mrs. Roll. Middle high school compact will be Mrs. McNear and Mrs. Dietrich. Technology committee, Mrs. Dietrich.
I thought I signed up for elementary compact also.
She did.
I thought we'd put a pin in it. I will add you.
You don't have to. I'm happy to do it, but you really don't.
I think one's
One is
fun.
good, 'cause
I think one is fun.
Yeah.
And Liz, you got, I don't want to.
Put me on backup. I'll be the alternate.
I don't want to
There you
overwhelm
go.
you.
Liz is on a lot, and she does a lot. So middle school, McNear and Dietrich. Technology, Dietrich. Genesee Valley Partnership Board and alternate, President Dow and Vice President Bickford. Legislative liaison, Mr. Richlicky and Bickford. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, negotiations will be Bellenick, alternate will be McNear. Board Audit Committee, Bellenick, Bickford, and Dow. Facilities Committee, Dietrich and Dow. Board Policy Committee, Richlicky and Bellenick. Shared Services, Dow and McNear. Athletic Code, Bellenick and McNear. Genesee Valley Board President Representative, Dow and Bickford as her alternate. Textbook Committee, Dietrich and Roll. Finance Committee, Dow.
I
Will
would
we
be,
get a schedule, like around September-ish, for when all the meetings are?
Yes, we started to update that document. It's in the backup notes here, and some of the dates that have already come through are already in there. But before the end of the summer, the admin team will update all the pieces they want to. Of course, thank you.
Liz, I can do the technology. And we have a hole there.
Okay.
So, and roll, or
You want off?
I'm happy to be in that.
Okay. All right, so resolved that the Board of Education appoint representatives to committees for the 2025-2026 school year as Dr. Chanel just listed. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, everyone, for your work on that. Building use fees, number 7, resolved that the Board of Education, per Board Policy 3280, establish building use fees at $30 per hour for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second?
Any discussion? That rate is staying the same, Dr. Chanel?
We are
Yes.
leaving it the same.
Leaving it the same. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Substitute rates. Number 8, resolved that the Board of Education establish the following rates for substitutes during the 2025-2026 school year as attached. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 9 through 11 are very similar, and there's been no changes. Committee on Special Education, resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the recommended membership to the Committee on Special Education for the 2025-2026 school year as listed. May I have a motion, please?
Make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Number 10, Subcommittee on Special Education. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the recommended membership to the Subcommittee on Special Education for the 2025-2026 school year as listed. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 11, Committee on Preschool Special Education. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the recommended membership to the Committee on Preschool Special Education for the 2025-2026 school year as listed. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 12, establish standard workday for ERS. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, hereby establishes as standard workdays for its employees and will report days worked to the New York State and local employees retirement system based on timekeeping system or a record of activities maintained and submitted by these members to the clerk of this body. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 13, authorization to hire employees pending board approval. Whereas the appointment of employees and the approval of volunteers is within the authority of this board, and whereas employee appointments and volunteer approvals generally begin after the date of board action, and whereas there are circumstances in which it is advantageous and proper that employees and volunteers begin prior to the date of board action, now therefore be it resolved that this board delegates to the superintendent or designee the authority to appoint employees and to approve volunteers effective on a date prior to board action, provided, however, that such employees and volunteers are placed on the board agenda for the next or following board meeting. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 14, authorization for business matters in between board meetings. Authorize the superintendent or designee to approve and sign routine and/or time-sensitive contracts that require action between board meetings. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 15, authorization for other business office functions in between board meetings. Authorize the superintendent or designee to certify payrolls, make transfers of money between and within functional unit appropriations, to approve conferences for all employees, and to approve applications for grants. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Moving on to old business, there is no old business, so we're going to move on to new business. Number 1, school bus intermunicipal cooperative agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve intermunicipal cooperative agreement with the York Central School District regarding the transportation of students in the event of a driver or bus shortage for the 2025-2026 school year per attached resolution. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to comment here that this is standard practice for us. We do this with both York and Leroy. I just know that if folks are watching board meetings and the transportation department is concerned, this actually doesn't have anything to do with our future. This has everything to do with our standard practice for being able to borrow buses and drivers in an emergency situation.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. School bus intermunicipal cooperative agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve intermunicipal cooperative agreement with the Leroy Central School District regarding the transportation of students in the event of a driver or bus shortage for the 2025-2026 school year per attached resolution. May I have a motion, please?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Same thing. This is just our standard way in which we partner with local districts to.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome. I don't want anybody to get upset.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Items 3 through 6 are all very similar. In an effort to stay efficient, I'm going to combine them. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought we had someone in the audience say no. Approval of contract with West Fire Systems Incorporated. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the West Fire contract for the fire alarm inspection and testing in the number 3 elementary school, number 4 middle high school, number 5 admin building, and number 6 bus garage. May I have a motion, please?
Make it.
Second?
Second.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. We're going to move on to number 7, approval of elevator maintenance of Buffalo contract. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the contract with Elevator Maintenance of Buffalo Incorporated to furnish its examination and lubrication services for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Approval of the WaterWise contract. Number 8, resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the WaterWise service contract for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
What does that involve? What is that? Like, what are they doing for us?
They test the water
Okay.
inside the boilers to make sure that its pH is good and that the boilers stay healthy.
Thank you.
Scale, corrosion,
Good
all
question.
those good fun things.
Any other questions? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Approval of Stark Tech Services LLC. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the contract with Stark Tech for generator service. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 10 doesn't require a motion, but we just have to review. Review of annual average daily attendance. Per board policy number 7110, the district annual daily attendance for the 2024-2025 school year was 94.21%. Dr. Chanel, did you want to say anything about that?
I would just say that when we're comparing it to the year prior, it's up just a little bit, and I will never miss an opportunity to say that 85% of school success is kids being in attendance. Teachers can't get it done if the kids aren't here, so just encouraging us to always want that to be as close to 100 as we can get it.
Yep. Thank you. Number 11, school resource officer agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the school resource officers agreement with the Village of Caledonia for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Before I move to 12 through 16, Dr. Chanel, will you speak to some of these, because I'm going to read them as listed.
Okay.
I think if I read
12 and 16.
12 through 16,
12 and 16, I think, are the ones
Yes.
that you want me to
Yes.
comment on. So number 12 is best value, actually, maybe not, hold on one second. Let me double check, because I'm in the opposite spot. Do you have, does this one say tips on it? No, that's not the one I want.
You need 12 through 16.
tips is 15. Dr.
Tips is
Chanel.
15, I'm just going to say, I don't see, oh, there it is, it's on the back side. Number 15 is the one you want me to speak to. Yes. 15 and 16 are new language. So 15 is the approval of our TIPS cooperative purchasing agreement. You actually do this every year. There was a legal case between a school district, and it had to do with this particular type of contract. So I did ask our legal counsel to vet this language before we approve it again, to make sure that we're aligned to what legal counsel feels is our best parameter. So what you saw highlighted there actually came from legal counsel advice. So the changes are there. Number 16 is actually new. Across the state of New York, every school district has to have their vendors become Ed Law 2D compliant, which requires us to go into that compliance agreement with them. We realize that schools all across the state of New York are having to do that. Different BOCES have different Ed 2 Law D agreements with different vendors, and all they're trying to do now is create this RIC 1, which will allow us to go and say there's already an Ed Law 2D contract with a vendor we may not be using yet, but they were using down in this other tier. So it basically saves us that extra hassle of the Ed Law 2D compliance, because they're already compliant with the state.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
I am going to not read these. Is everybody okay? They're in the backup notes, and just say as listed. Dr. Chanel spoke to 15 and 16, which are some changes. Approval of best value cooperative purchasing resolution as listed. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Approval of Equalist Group Cooperative Purchasing Agreement as listed. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Approval of Omnia Partners Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So,
A second?
yep.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 15, approval of TIPS Cooperative Purchasing Agreement. May I have a motion, please?
Make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 16, approval of intermunicipal agreement. May I have a motion, please?
Make it.
Second?
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Approval of contract with Hunt Engineers. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the written agreement between the superintendents. Approve the contract with Hunt Engineers for the 2025-2026 capital outlay project as attached. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. 18, approval of courier van intermunicipal cooperative agreement. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the intermunicipal cooperative agreement with the Leroy Central School District regarding the use of a courier van during the summer, per attached resolution. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Executive session, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a reorganizational meeting. It's been wonderful. Resolved that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session at 7:39 p.m. to discuss the employment and employee history of particular persons and matters leading to the appointment. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you and have a good night. We're back from executive session. Resolved that the Board of Education return to regular session at 8:36 p.m. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. We're going to move on to personnel, and I will read through these as efficiently as I can. Number 1, approval of summer bus runs. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the following bus drivers and monitors for summer bus runs as listed. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the following teachers for the English language learners for the summer support program: Alana Burns and Colleen Coolidge. Motion, please.
Make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Approval of substitutes. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the following teachers as substitutes for the elementary summer program: Trish McMullen and Desiree Lyman. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Appointment for tenure for school social worker. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Anna Lina to the tenure position of school social worker tenure area. The tenured service shall begin on August 28, 2025, pending successful completion of the probationary term to the end on August 31st, 2025. The appointee has professional certification as school social worker K-12. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Appointment of tenure of business teacher. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Aaron Strepp to the tenure position of business teacher tenure area. The tenured service shall begin on August 28, 2025, pending successful completion of the probationary term to end on August 31st, 2025. The appointee has professional certification in business and marketing. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 6, appointment of tenure of school librarian. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Elizabeth Barber on the tenure position of school librarian media specialist tenure area. The tenured service shall begin on August 28, 2025, pending successful completion of the probationary term to end August 31st, 2025. The appointee holds initial certification as library media specialist. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Appointment of tenure science teacher. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Ben Hoy on the tenure position of science education teacher tenure area. The tenured service shall begin on August 28, 2025, pending successful completion of the probationary term to end August 31st, 2025. The appointee holds initial certification in biology 7 through 12. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can you clarify those dates? It was 2025 to 2025?
I asked, the first day of school is, for teachers, is actually August the 28th. So tenure begins when a teacher actually starts the next school year. So that's actually the date of their tenure. That second date is not necessary.
You say it's like a 3-day period. or
Yeah,
something.
I don't know why she left that date in there, so that date is not, it's not necessary. It also doesn't impact, the tenure will actually be effective at the date you said it was, which is
So
the
all
August
tenures
28th.
effective August 28, 2025. That
Yes.
second date is a misread, and we all understand that.
Yes.
Do you want me to reread them?
So moved.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
I made a note to myself.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? That was the discussion, I apologize. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Appointment of tenured technology teacher. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the appointment of superintendent, appoint Larry Harvey in the tenure position of technology education tenure area. The tenured service shall begin on August 28, 2025, pending successful completion of the probationary term to end. But that's not accurate.
Go with that same date. Just use the August 28th date twice.
August 28, 2025. The appointee holds professional certification in computer technology 7 through 12. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Thought he was very good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Approve annual stipend rates for positions appointed annually. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve stipends for annually appointed positions for the 2025-2026 school year as attached. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 10, permanent employment of bus driver. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve Kevin Brannigan to the permanent civil service position of bus driver effective August 29, 2025, upon successful completion of probationary term. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Permanent appointment of bus driver. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve Carol Day to the permanent civil service position of bus driver effective August 29, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Appointment of teacher aide. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Ashley Guest to the 1.0 FTE civil service permanent position of teacher aide effective August 29, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Appointment of teacher aide. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Shannon Gear to the 1.0 FTE civil service permanent position of teacher aide effective August 29th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I will do that.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Appointment of athletic coaches and volunteers. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint the updated attached list of athletic positions for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Number 15, approval of MOA. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the written agreement between the superintendent of schools and the Caledonia Mulford Teachers Association executed on June 17, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Number 16, appointments of school-to-work students. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint the following school-to-work students for the 2025-2026 school year as listed. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion is carried. 17, approval of resignation of payroll benefits district treasurer. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, accept with regret and best wishes the resignation of Christina Clemo, district treasurer, effective July 30th, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is carried. 18, appointment of substitute driver. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve Ron Otto as a substitute transportation director for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is carried. Moving to adjournment, resolved that the Board of Education adjourn the meeting of July 8th, 2025 at 8:46 PM. May I have a motion, please?
I think you missed the last one.
We got
Mentors.
one more.
Appointed mentors first.
So let's go.
Do you have?
I don't have it on me.
It's on the thing.
I'm done.
I'm sorry. Please hold.
It came out, remember I just had to have Sue, she sent it to you, and I had her send you a next one right away. You
Actually, I
have
did
it?
the wrong one. Thank you, Liz.
Of course. Thank you.
19. Appointment of mentors. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approves the following mentors for the 2025-2026 school year as listed. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Isn't this fun?
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Apologies, guys. I printed the wrong one. Now we're really moving to adjournment. Resolved that the Board of Education adjourned the meeting of July 8, 2025 at 8:47 PM. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good work, everyone. Have a good evening.